When I first came to Fargo, I spent I checked myself into a hotel and I spent about 7 months there, living a life of debauchery, pornography, television, a bunch of just eating everything I could to fill my stomach. Not much has changed in that regard. I probably gained about 40 pounds. After that time, I tried to end my life, and that didn't go through. And when that didn't go through, I decided to check myself into a homeless shelter. So I went to the New Life Center in Fargo, and I spent a few months there. While there, I met this black man who used to work in the circus. Very vivacious, energetic guy who was kind of fun and interesting to spend time with. One time he told me a story about how this older man had given him a ride. And when the ride was over, or somewhere during the ride, the older man pulled out $300. Or was it 100? I don't know. Maybe it was 200. It was a lot. I remember it being a lot. And said, if you uh, perform fellatio on me, I will give you this money. Well, this man that I had met at the homeless shelter, his response was to pull out a knife and to steal the money from that man's hand and exit the vehicle. And when I heard that story, I was really shocked. Um, I thought it was somewhat wrong for the man who offered the money for sex, but very wrong for the black man to threaten him and steal his money. I recently made a friend with the black guy in Fargo, and I sat down with him once, and this was a number of years ago. When I say recent, it was a number of years ago. Anyway, I sat down with him and talked about his life and wrote down information about his life. And just to kind of to establish, to try and help him, to try and help with any goals he might have in his life. I felt that making an honest accounting of where he was, which is something that I had done, would be a good first step to thinking about the future. So I asked him his age, I asked him his full name, and I wrote it down, and I wrote down a bunch of other stuff. And in the course of conversation, he asked me if I was with the FBI, and I was really taken aback. Why would he think that I was with the FBI? I've noticed in my life a lot of paranoia that I would have seen that seemed to me to be very misplaced. A lot of paranoia from black people in particular. Not just these two events I mentioned, but other events as well. Um, I just watched, or I'm watching again, something that I had watched years ago, where the ex-head of the FBI, Ted Gunderson, I'll put the link below, talks about his first exposition, his first being exposed to the people who are victims of satanic rituals. And when I first watched this video, I did not take a lot of it in. I thought it was quite over over the information must have been wrong. Some of it must have been wrong. I'm watching it again and I'm blown away because I believe that this is actually right. The stuff that he's exposing is right. That satanic rituals, the killing of children after molesting and raping them, mind control, it's all true. In this video, in the beginning, he's talking about his first being exposed to this information. And he discusses how these pedophile networks and the hoarding or the keeping of children to sell to people who are pedophiles. And he talks about how, many of the children are sold or engage in these sex events, sex parties, sex orgies, and the brown children are killed. Now, this is just one event. There's probably a lot of different rituals, but he specifically goes and talks about how brown children are sacrificed in these satanic rituals. So that leads me to think that it's more common with black and brown people that, because of their race, because of perhaps a belief in their inferiority, they are sacrificed. They are allowed to get the worst share of torture and murder. And when I think back to my experiences with black men in particular, and their what I would call paranoia, it all makes sense to me now. I don't know what it's like to be a black man, and I'm not saying that I'm cured of any racism I might have, but I'm saying this is a pretty deep rabbit hole, and I'm continually finding myself being blown away by the stuff that is revealed to me.